Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. We are back with the next installment in the Elbaph arc, and I cannot wait to discuss what we find out this chapter because a certain character gets a bit more screen time, and I cannot wait to discuss or delve into what it is this character is up to. So, without further ado, chapter 1145, The Blaze in Branch 8's Forest, number 2. What a mouthful of a title that was. But we are in for a treat because not only do we get a cover story, we have a beautiful colour spread to mark the return of the Egghead arc to the anime. The Straw Hats are tuning in to watch, and it is just beautiful to see. So I'm very excited. I know the animation's been getting a lot of time now to really step up, even though it was already in a good spot. So it's going to be a very, very good arc now. But we are way, way ahead now. We are in Elbaph, and the cover story is the fact that Ulti and Page 1 are safe. Yamato has protected them. She has retrieved the sword. Job's good. Are Page 1 and Ulti now going to side with Yamato? Could happen. But we'll only see what happens. So, last we had left off, the dream-like apparition monsters had begun their rampage. They were running amok across this section of Elbaph. Frankie was dealing with a thundercloud. There was the Draugr dealing with the village. There was a dragon. There was the ghost. There was a lot of things going on. And it was decided that those within the village, they spoke to Elder Ja Rule and said there's intruders. One guy said, he looked like Shanks, could be pretty dangerous. There's a lot on your plate, let us help out. And Ja Rule's like, no, you guys are guests, we're going to go deal with this. And immediately the Straw Hats went, no, we're going to be the ones who are going to help. And they decided that if the intruders were of, human origin, that it was easier for them to find and track them down and let the giant deal with the giant monsters, which makes sense. And lo and behold, Colin was trying his best to go and hunt or help the fight in what way he could. So he was jumping on a small Sval ship. The Straw Hats have joined those who were at the village, and they're on their way to come and help out. Meanwhile, poor Saul was trying his absolute best to save these kids under the spell of Kiraman, Gunko, and Summer. All three Devil Fruit abilities in one go. And poor Saul is just getting absolutely taken because he can't stop them from walking. He can't stop the person in the front. He manages to lasso the person from behind, and then Fenrir shows up. So we'll see what happens there. But we do find out that Gunko has a post-ritual meal of listening to music. Not just any music, Brooks music. So we have a Brooks stan amongst the Holy Knights, which is going to be interesting to see play out. But then also at the end of the chapter, the giant warrior pirates show up. Broggy and Dory do their signature move. Everyone is like, monsters are a done deal. We're saved. Wait, what else? Yes, Gabon has joined the fight and was on board the ship as well. And now the Giants can just relax. The Giants are like, that ship is invincible. Nothing is stopping them. I think something might. But we'll see. So we pick up back in the underworld, and it is Goldberg, Sanji, and Zorro on the hunt for what looks like food. And they've come across a dinosaur. And we see that Goldberg has a talking animated shield that pulls a very funny face to be able to block the dinosaur's attack. But nevertheless, it's a talking shield. And we see that, for all the times they clash heads, Zorro and Sanji working together is actually really dangerous. They combined one shot this dinosaur. Sanji kicks Zorro up into the air, Zorro decapitates it. Pretty simple, Look where we are now in the story where they can one shot a dinosaur. So we find out that it is called a Groggysaurus, which is a cool name. And Goldberg talks about how, it's very like fat and it got like a very thick layer. So it pairs well with like booze. So Groggysaurus is probably why it got that name. But Sanji questions why his shield has a face. And he's like, is it a devil fruit? Is it just something for Elbaph? Like, what's going on? And Goldberg says, oh, no. That actually came to life after a clash my old man had with Big Mum. And I was like, whoa, okay. They're like, yeah, we know about Big Mum. And Sanji's like, I don't know about Big Mum. So interested, and it's still up for debate. Is Big Mum still alive? Because we know that devil fruit abilities can remain even if the holder dies. We know that from Boa's conversation with Blackbeard when she turned everyone to stone. Blackbeard was like, undo it or I'll kill you. And Boa's like, if I lose the power, if I die or you take the power, you can't undo them from stone. It has to be me. So Big Mum dying wouldn't stop the souls she's already taken and put into objects. It would just stop her from doing it further. So she could be dead. Equally, she could still be alive. And that's why the souls are still here. But who knows? But nevertheless, they talk about how, Nami's basically got Zeus now as his right hand man, And he's like, what? Like, one of the homies is with Nami now? And he's like, oh yeah, like, you haven't seen it yet, but yeah, Nami's got Zeus, so we're all good. But we arrive back with Loki and the others, Gerd is tending to him, and he's informing them that it was indeed the God's Knights, the Holy Knights who had turned up and done all this carnage, caused all these injuries. And Haroon's like, wow, man, like, you must have really left an impact when you were out at sea, like, all that rampaging you did. And Loki's like, man, if I was on their radar, I'd already be king of the world. Like, this was just a bit of a bad eye, like, paths crossing type of thing. And Luffy's like, well, government knights, what? So, definitely going to be a very interesting interaction because he's already held off one of the five elders. So the Holy Knights are almost a step down to a degree than a five elder. So we're getting the Luffy meeting each hierarchy before he will eventually face Eve, I assume. But they begin to cook up this dinosaur, and Luffy, very funnily, is like, Loki, you need to eat. Here's this big chunk of meat, and just smashes it into his face, like scalding meat. And he's like, apologies, yeah. And they're just like having this like shouting match with each other. And he's like, look, like, you need to eat if you want to heal. So, like, this is going to help. and he's like, I can't eat while I'm lying down, like I'm gonna have to sit up. And Luffy brings over hot soup and spills it on him, and Gert's having a wonderful time watching this. She is actually happy to watch Loki get a bit more punishment, I guess. But they discuss what it was that, they had bargained with, or what he had bargained with Luffy. And he says, oh yeah, Red Hair's whereabouts? Yeah, no, I'm not lying. I know where he is. But the deal was I'm out of chains first, and clearly points down at his leg. I'm not out of chains. So you're not gonna know. And it's interesting because he's like, wow man, like it really is like interesting that you want to see him so badly. You know, I guess that's what it is about being so young and looking up to a pirate. And Luffy's like, wait, you know how that feels? And he's like, yeah, man, like, the only regret is that you were just a kid. And we get a flashback to Loki demanding that a certain pirate take him on his crew. Very, very Luffy-esque. Like this is like mirror parallel of like take me on your crew. I want to sail the sea with you. He's just a kid, and this individual is like as if I would take a brat like you. I'm not going to repeat myself again. Why don't you challenge me? And this dude pummeled Loki as a child. This shadowy figure is Rocks, and he is a menace. We've got like the crazy hair, we've got that sort of maniacal. We get a look at his eyes, and he looks to have similar eyes to like Mihawk to a degree. And he shuts down Whitebeard, who's stood next to him because we see Whitebeard's big mustache, and he's like, "Wow, like, why would you pull a blade on a kid?" And he's like, "Shut up, Newgate." So yeah, Rox is a menace, man. Like this is the character that has been built up even more than like even other characters. And we're definitely gonna have some impact into what Rox has actually done or been up to, because he was at God Valley. The Rocks crew was one of the fiercest in the world at the time. Before God Valley, he's at Elbaph. So what is his reason for being at Elbaph? Because he would have seen the mural, he would have seen all the artifacts and tech and everything that the island has. This dude has a much bigger impact in the story going forward than I gave him credit for, because there is something I think we're going to get revealed about Rox's importance. And obviously, Blackbeard's ship is a reference to Rox with the Zebek. There's so many connections to this man and how he is like the polar opposite to Roger. And this is what we're getting here in a kind of parallel to Shanks, where, he was more like wanting to trust in Luffy, that he was the new generation. He gave him the straw hat. He wanted him to be a great pirate. He kind of nurtured that and kind of empowered it. Whereas Rock was like, I'm going to pull a blade on Loki here and teach him a lesson. Loki, the only regret he has was that he was born in the wrong era. And this is like a double page of this where he says this on one side, and we see the giant warrior pirates just dealing with the swarm of Draugr, like attacking the ship. And it's pretty cool to see, but it's like that contrast of, he's younger than Dorian Broggy, like the wrong era. Like imagine if Loki was like their age, like what he would have been capable of now. So we jump over, we do see Dory Broggy, the giant warrior pirate, plus Gabon dealing with these monsters. And they deal with them pretty quickly, but that's not the worst of it. because as like the sort of carnage takes a moment, Gabon's like, wow, like this is pretty mad. Like just as I thought, like there's just more and more coming, but there's three. There are voices that are so strange that they cannot be suppressed, and I can hear them. If Elbaph is no longer safe, then the world really is ending. Is he hearing the voice of the Holy Knights, or is there something else? It's pretty close with the three of them that it's probably the three Holy Knights he hears as like the voice of all things and stuff. But how bad are they to make even Gabon like, whoa, like they're freaking me out? So maybe there's more to them that we still don't know. But we jump over now to obviously the 8th branch, where the firefighting unit is trying to put the fire out with sea clouds. And they're doing absolutely everything they can from underneath the branch to shoot up, put the fire out. Saul has dealt with Fenrir, like this legendary mythical wolf, no problem for Saul. You know, Odin died to it. Saul's like, it's just a dog, it's just a big dog, easy. But we see the kids are inching closer to the fire. They're trying their best, and the Holy Knights are just watching. They're just like, whoa, Gunko, you know, looks like they're going to end up in the fire. You know, this is pretty bad. You know, aren't they going to wake up? You know, from the damage that they're going to take? And Gunko is a menace, saying, yeah, they're going to wake up, but, you know, it'll just be them screaming for their parents in terror. The flames will burn them to their bone. Who cares? And as the kids enter the fire, like their footsteps, I think Ilva, who's the one in front, steps into the flame. A shoulder throw of the current comes up, and Jinbei, standing on principle with his fishman karate, puts the fire out immediately. Never mind the three dudes who were stood there with fire hoses. Jinbei, out of nowhere, just arcs a giant wave and just decimates the water. And we can see the small ship of all the Straw Hats, Nami, Brooke, Usopp, Jinbei, who were all there, are like, Jinbei, you've saved him, you're the best. Branch 8 Forest, number two's fire has been extinguished. Everyone is happy, joyous, like it's over the transponder snail, so we see Dory Broggy and like Gabon are like, that was a close call, like, well in guys, I knew you could do it, this is amazing. And then Robin and Chopper have a brief moment where Chopper's like, Robin, just now, wasn't that? And Robin's like, yeah, it's Jinbei, but, you know, there's something else. And aboard the Sval ship, we see Colin, like, dead loud, dead happy, like, look what we've just done, it was so cool, well done Jinbei, well done, we've saved them. Nami's excited. Gunko just appears. From an arrow, we can see it like winding away in the wind, stood aboard the ship, and everyone freaks out. And she's like, wow, clearly not all the kids were at school. And this one seems sure lively. The chapter ends, and we have a break. Oh, we finally get the first confrontation between Straw Hat and Holy Knight. And it is Gunko just rocking up, arrow ready, looking at these. Oh, like, beautiful. Beautiful. The first confrontation now directed at the Straw Hats. And Gunko is going to show what a menace she can be. Obviously, Saint Summer, Saint Kiriman are in the wings watching. We will see what transpires. But that was a great chapter because the brief Rocks flashback alone just shows more to his character because we knew he was this antithesis of Roger. We knew he was bad, but we didn't quite know how bad, and he would beat up a child. So certainly going to be interested to see how he goes in the story further. Like, why was he on Elbaph to begin with? Like, what is he up to? So I sure can't wait to see. And then obviously the showdown now between Holy Knights and the Straw Hats. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Let me know what you thought of this chapter. I will see you guys next time. Bye.